Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining today for the 2023 ARC Board Elections Information Session and Campaign Briefing. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Joelle, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm the Executive Officer for ARC. The only reason that's relevant in this context is because I look after the board, SRC, PGC and IRC alongside Lucy, and I am the returning officer for these elections. I will throw to, we've got Lucy with us today and Jackie, who's a current board director. I'm going to throw to them to introduce themselves. Lucy?
Yeah, so I'm Lucy, the governance admin officer. So I work alongside Joelle on the board, against student councils and also the subcommittees of the board, just on the admin side of things. And I'm also one of the returning officers for the board elections this year. And yeah, just Jackie.
Yep. Hi, everyone. So my name's Jackie. I'm a honours student, or currently completing my honours in politics and IR. And I just finished my undergrad in PPE, but I'm also a second year director on the ARC board and the 2022-2023 nominations and remuneration subcommittee chair. So I'll be providing an explanation today about ARC as an organisation and what it means to be a director.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jack. Before we go any further, I would like to acknowledge the Bidjigal, Gadigal and Ngunnawal people as the traditional custodians of the land on which ARC and UNSW operates, as well as acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which or from which you're all dialing in from today. I myself am dialing in from Whadjuk Noongar country over in Western Australia. I'd like to pay my respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people joining us today. A reminder that sovereignty was never ceded. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land. So before I throw to Jackie to give you a bit of an oversight on ARC board and what it means to be a director, I'll just run you through what we're going to cover today. So we're going to give you a bit of a debrief on what the board actually is, what is involved in your director duties if you are successful, the elections timeline, campaigning guidelines, and the voting process. Quick housekeeping just before we kick on. Please stay on mute unless you're talking, just to limit some background noise. If you're in the room with Lucy, raise your hand to ask a question, or if you're online, just use the raise hand function. You can also drop questions in the chat and we'll get to them after each particular topic. The nearest restrooms, Lucy can direct you to in person if you need them. And if there's an evacuation, please head to the quad. I'll now throw to Jackie to give us some information about board.
Cool. So I'm just going to cover off some of the logistics before we dive into the board itself and its structure. So ARC was the amalgamation of 3 previous student organisations or associations at UNSW. So ARC was formed in 2007. And contrary to popular belief, ARC's not an acronym. It's representative of an arc. So that encompasses all aspects of student life. We're a registered company and a not-for-profit organisation registered with the Australian Charities and Non-for-Profit Commission. So we act independently from UNSW and are an independent entity from them as well. So, however, we receive majority of our funding from the uni. This is via our support agreement and other service agreements. So this could include the agreement to operate sport on campus, which we do on behalf of the uni. And so being a registered company means that as an organisation and also as directors, we're responsible to the Corporations Act, just like any other organisation you can think of. So moving on to ARC Board. So what is it? The ARC Board is a group of 10 passionate students and 5 non-students who essentially govern the organisation. We provide the strategic direction rather than looking at the smaller operational decisions. We set and approve the budget and make the big picture decisions about the path for ARC as an organisation. So ARC Board's majority student-led, which means we're able to make informed decisions based on our experiences on campus and ensuring ARC is as relevant and adaptive as it needs to be. So being a director sounds super daunting, but we're provided with so many training and development opportunities in our capacity as student directors, and we work alongside the other 5 non-student directors who act both as colleagues and mentors to further develop our knowledge and leadership skills. So moving on to the actual structure of the board and how it operates. So this is just a visual representation of the current board structure. As you can see, the board has 4 subcommittees that focus on specific areas of the organisation. So we've got firstly finance. So this obviously covers finance and budget issues. We've got the nominations and remuneration subcommittee, my committee, my favourite one. So we call that Noms and Rems. And this committee covers recruitment and appointment processes, performance evaluations, and all election related issues. Then we've got audit and risk. So this looks after internal controls and procedures, risk identification, and reporting the annual audit process. So then lastly, we have the Student Development Committee, so SDC. Everything on the ground is student related, such as clubs and volunteering programs, student councils and ARC membership. Everything that's student related kind of comes under this subcommittee. But outside of the Board of Directors, you'll also see that the SRC and PGC and IRC are also here. So these bodies are elected by students of UNSW and are run autonomously from the ARC board, but ARC provides funding to these councils and the board oversees and supports them from a governance perspective. So for example, assisting with charter reviews and handling escalated queries, things like that. But the presidents of the SRC and PGC are voting members of the ARC board by definition of their positions, and the IRC president is a standing invite to the SDC meetings. So moving on to another representation of ARC board's current composition. So you'll see on the left, there are 4 outgoing director positions, and then these will be the positions that are filled at the upcoming election. So moving on to the positions on ARC. So there are 4 positions available, and as per the Constitution, 2 of these positions have to be filled by women. Assuming we receive more than 2 nominations for either of the categories, we'll go to an election and it will go to a vote with ARC members being eligible to vote. But in order to be eligible to run, you will have to be a current UNSW student, a current member of ARC at the close of nominations, which is the 6th of March, so coming up soon, and then not in a position of profit with ARC. So this could be being employed by ARC in a casual role or whatever it might be. And so any SRC or PGC nominees would also have to have resigned from their position at the close of nominations. So if you are planning to run, please make sure you are a current ARC member prior to nominations closing. And if you are not, become an ARC member and register on the ARC website online or go to the ARC reception as it's free. So moving on to ARC board meetings and what it's like to be a director on board. So as a director, you're expected to attend board meetings as well as subcommittee meetings for whichever subcommittees you choose to join. So you're encouraged to join at least 1 or 2 subcommittees in addition to SDC. So board meetings are held at 6 p.m. and you can join online or in person, so it's very flexible. But the expectations, so directors are expected to attend all required meetings, come prepared and be willing to speak up. There are literally no silly questions or ideas. If you're not sure, just ask. And if you prefer to do it prior to a meeting, you can ask the ARC chair. And if you have an idea, let the board hear about it. I'm so sorry for the background noise if you can hear that. But so being a director is a big learning and development opportunity. There are also director courses and training sessions which you may be interested in attending, and they are provided to you in your capacity as a director. But your primary duty of directors is to the company and its members. But as to what it's like and what it was like for me, being a director is a big learning experience. It's really rare that you have an opportunity like this to be sitting on a board and directing the strategic direction of a company at such a young age. And so I think that's what makes it really invaluable. You've got the opportunity to develop hard skills like your financial literacy, but also the opportunity to develop your confidence and communication skills. So there's also lots of training and development opportunities throughout your term, as mentioned. So this includes like the mid-year board strategic planning retreat. But the best part is that there's no expectations. You know everything about corporate governance when coming into the role. Like everyone at ARC is incredibly supportive and are there to help you and help you grow into the role of a student director. But also lastly, to me, it felt like sitting on board it feels like you're making a real difference. ARC does all things student life, so the decisions you make is affecting a lot of people in a positive way. So I think that's pretty cool and definitely worthwhile. But onto questions. So before I hand back to Lucy and Joelle, I definitely encourage everyone to nominate for ARC board. It's such a great experience and the people genuinely are so wonderful. And I've learned so much from everyone on ARC. But does anyone have any questions before I head off? No? Okay, can do. So if after this session there's any questions that you come up with, you can reach out to myself or the current chair, Oliver Pike, via email. And I think his email's on the ARC website. So reach out to him then. Okay, that's me done then. Thanks everyone and good luck with the nomination process.
Thanks, Jackie.
See ya.
Bye. Okay, cool. I think you're on mute, Joelle.
I was saying bye, Jack. Thanks heaps, but she obviously missed it.
Yeah.
No worries. All right, we'll go to you. Over to you, Lucy.
Yeah, cool. So just a brief overview of the elections timeline. So obviously the nominations have opened already this Monday on the 27th of Feb. So we're now within the opening and closing times. So if you are interested in submitting a nomination form, please do so now, as they will be closing next Monday on the 6th of March. And also we might be having a second round of nominations depending on the number of candidates that we receive. So if we have less than 4, we'll definitely be opening up another round, but if we have 4, we will be having those automatically in place for the 4 positions available. So voting opens on Monday the 27th of March and closes on the Thursday of that week. So you have 4 days to vote. So that's for the ARC members who will be eligible to vote in the elections. So moving on to nominations. So as mentioned, they open Monday and they will be closing next Monday. So we have a nomination form on the website here. So if I take you guys through to that. So it's on the elections website of ARC. So if you scroll down, you'll be able to see there's the election notice. So if you go into that, there's a brief introduction of the board elections this year with a nominate now button. So if you click on that, it'll take you through to the form. So it has the basic details for the nominations and times. So there's just some requirements to fill out regarding your details. So standard things like your name and address, contact information, and also information regarding your course of study. And also, please, we highly encourage you guys to submit a statement and photograph, which will be uploaded to the website. So that's all the standard things that you just need to read and sign off and submit. So it's fairly simple and quick to do. So we do highly recommend you to do that as soon as possible before the nominations close. So just noting that late nominations will not be accepted. So please do get in there early. Okay, and moving on to Joelle for campaigning briefing.
Awesome, thank you. To the really fun and nitty-gritty part of this session, I'm going to be running you through the campaigning guidelines for the 2023 elections. So it's important for all of you to know each candidate must abide by and inform their supporters and campaigners of the ARC regulations and guidelines, including the necessity to observe these requirements at all times. There is a section of the ARC regulations that covers campaigning, and there is also a campaigning guidelines extract or booklet that runs through things in more detail. So please make sure that you're referring to both of these. Online and verbal campaigning can commence from the day after nominations close, so Tuesday the 4th of March, and they will conclude when voting concludes, which is Thursday the 30th of March, as Lucy mentioned earlier. Online campaigning is defined as the use of social media platforms, emails, messaging, digital flyers. You all know what online means. And then on-campus campaigning means engaging with students via a means of handing out flyers, wearing campaign shirts, having conversations, utilising A-frames, etc., etc. Now, it's important to remember that candidates all nominate and run independently of ARC, and no candidate is endorsed or supported by ARC. So you need to be sure or make sure that the ARC logo is not used in any of your candidate campaign material, because that would give the perception that you are supported or endorsed by ARC, and we do not endorse any candidates. Campaigning guidelines. Okay, I'm going to unfortunately read through these, but they are much more fleshed out in the 2 documents that I spoke of earlier, so please make sure you're reading them thoroughly. Only UNSW students may campaign for the election of a candidate. No campaign material can be produced using ARC resources, including your ARC email accounts if you're already affiliated with ARC at all, inside our offices, photocopiers, computers, etc. No campaigning or campaign material production may take place in any of our owned facilities or spaces. No materials may be displayed or worn within ARC operated facilities. This includes our social media. Campaigning can only take place on UNSW grounds and the surrounding footpaths. I don't really know why you'd campaign anywhere else anyway. And please make sure that you check clause 10.24 regarding the rest of the campaigning guidelines. Any breaches may result in penalties or disqualification. Social media guidelines. Again, these are covered in the document, but I'll read through them here. ARC will not be actively monitoring online forums. As you can imagine, there is an infinite number of them. So you need to be conscious of this yourself and make sure that you're checking your own privacy settings. All campaign posts must include the name and ZID of the authorizer. Please ignore the word ticket there. This is not a factional election, so the authorizer would be the candidate. Sponsored or paid social media posts are prohibited. You can't publicise on dating apps. Please don't do it. It's happened at some other unis. No use of email lists of UNSW students for the purpose of campaigning or sending spam emails or messaging, unless the student or students in question have explicitly signed up for a mailing list expressing interest in your campaign. Any students that do receive campaigning via direct message or email are able to request to be removed from that future messaging, and your campaign or campaigners or supporters will have 24 hours to remove the student from that list. Event guidelines. So any ARC events, including club events, cannot be used to address groups of students for campaigning purposes, and that includes displaying or distributing campaign material at these events. And then should a ARC publication, so that is Tharunka or Blitz, facilitate an event or a Q&A or a debate or article or similar, the returning officer, which is me, must approve the use of any of that material, unless it's already been publicly released by the publication. So for example, if Tharunka's conducting an interview with you, you cannot record that interview and release it yourself. It has to be vetted by me first and or released by Tharunka first. Conduct. There is an extensive list of conduct expectations in the regulations and in the guidelines, but I'll run through them again here. All students involved in the election in any way must adhere to the standards of behaviour that are provided for in the regulation section 10.3. Any candidates or campaigners that publish, display or distribute any inappropriate material will be required to remove the material in question directed by me or Lucy, the returning officers, and issue a retraction if it's appropriate and if directed by me. Any candidates or campaigners that are found to have breached any of the conduct requirements may be subject to the penalties outlined also in the regulations. The kind of behaviour that we hone in on the most is behaviour that is intimidatory, aggressive, threatening, harassing, dishonest, misleading, deceptive, discriminatory, sexist, racist, homophobic, etc. There is, again, an endless list of this. Please just be a better human and keep the elections clean. You are also at risk of penalty if you mislead the returning officers or our delegates in the execution of our duties. Lastly, campaigning can be a bit stressful. So please reach out if you need any support. You can reach out to Lucy or myself and we can direct you to some services. And there are some services on the screen that you can also reach out to if you have any issues or qualms that you need to raise. Moving on to voting, Lucy will run through the process.
Yeah, cool. So just a brief intro on voting and how that works. So basically, as we mentioned in the timeline, voting commences Monday 27th and closes on the Thursday of 30th of March. So that happens via emails, which will get sent out to all ARC members who signed up for ARC membership before the 6th of March this year, who have a graduation date beyond 2023. So these ARC members will be receiving one vote each, and they'll have an email sent to their email address that they signed up for when they signed up for ARC membership. So if you have friends who are wondering why they have not received an email with the voting link, it's most likely because they registered with a different address to their UNSW student address. So just please make sure they check what email they used when they signed up for the ARC membership. So yeah, that's basically how voting works when that starts. Okay, so if you want more information after the session, or you're unsure about the process, or you're wondering if there's a breach, please do contact us via the returning officer email address here. So obviously, if you are confused about anything, please clarify that with us. Cool. And any questions?
I'm not seeing any online. So we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for attending today. If you think of anything after the fact, as Lucy said, reach out to the returning officer email address, or if you would like some more insight as to what it means to be on the board or what it's like to be on the board, you're welcome to reach out to any of the student directors. All of their names are listed on the ARC website, but Ollie and Jackie would be particularly happy to answer your questions. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, guys.